Okay, cool. So last time we were in here and talking about stuff, we were going over Final Cut Pro and how to utilize the editing software. This time through, you guys are actually going to start editing today. What I'm planning on doing is I'm going to give you guys your storyboards, your completed storyboards that you had given to me. I'm going to give it back to you so that way you guys can go ahead and start utilizing it inside of Final Cut Pro and start editing things and tossing stuff together so you can figure out how the application actually works. So hopefully all you guys have Final Cut Pro open. If you do, make sure that you are on as we go over here. If you guys need to take a look at the screen, you'll be able to take a look at the screen. When you're inside of Final Cut Pro, make sure you're under your egg story and make sure you have your correct project selected. If you don't have your correct project selected, look up here in the upper left-hand corner. Make sure you're on the library window. Some of you guys might still be on the generators tab. And so if you're on the generators tab, you need to swap back over to the library window so that way you can see all of your content in there. Now, right now, I have content inside of my particular window. You guys do not. All right, so we need to import your content. What I just got done doing is sending you all of your storyboards or all the storyboards for period 3 to your computers. So, does anyone remember how we import? What is the key function, the keyboard shortcut that we use in order to start importing stuff into Final Cut Pro? Okay, Command I, correct. So we're gonna go ahead and hit Command I. And when you hit Command I, your import window will pop open, okay, just like it did last time. This time though, you're gonna see an option underneath your options over here on the left-hand side, your left sidebar, one that says Desktop. If you click on Desktop, you guys should see, I'm gonna go ahead and go to my stuff really quick. You should see a couple of different items, including storyboards, okay? Group 1 did not have their storyboards. Group 4 did not have their storyboards. So you guys will have to import someone else's storyboards into your project. What I want you to do is I want you to find your group's storyboards. And you'll see that they are scanned. The way they're scanned in is sideways. So we're going to need to fix and adjust a couple of things before we can actually use it. But once you actually find your storyboard, you can click on the one that you want. If you end up wanting to import multiple clips, like when you guys actually go out to film all your stuff, you want to import multiple clips, you have to hold down the Command key. And when you hold down the Command key, you'll see that you can highlight more than just one particular clip. Now, if you want to take one away that you accidentally highlight, you can keep holding down the Command key and click on that item again, and it'll take it away and it'll deselect it. Okay? But what I want you guys to do right now is find on your desktop, my location's a little bit different than yours. On your desktop, I want you to find your group's videos or your group's storyboards. Okay? Once you find that, you want to make sure that it's importing into the correct event. If you take a look in the upper right-hand corner of your screen, it'll say Add to Existing Event, and you'll have the option to import that into your particular event. Make sure that it says Egg Story or something similar, and also make sure Copy to Library is selected. Okay, the reason why we want to copy it to our library is because as we're importing these items, we want to make sure they're all stuck in one location. If we leave the file in place and move the file, Final Cut Pro won't be able to find it. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and copy to library, and then after we're done with that, we're going to go ahead and choose Import Selected. Okay, and when you import selected is down in the bottom right-hand corner. When you import selected, you should be able to see it now on the left-hand side of your screen, inside of your viewer window. Okay, inside of your browser window, I should say. Now, if you want to scrub through and see all of your different storyboards, there is an option down here about the middle of the way through your screen on the right-hand side that allows you to, if you hover over it, turn on what's called skimming or scrubbing. If that is selected in blue, whenever you hover over a video clip inside of your media or browser window, you'll see that it goes from one shot to the next shot to the next shot and allows you to skim or scrub through different storyboards, okay, or different parts of that image. Right? What we need to do is we need to be able to drag all of these down and separating them out accordingly. Okay? So what we need to do is we need to find our first storyboard that we have. Should be pretty simple, okay, for you guys to be able to find. And what you're going to do is you're going to set your endpoint on that particular clip. Now, what do we hit to set our endpoint? I. Good. So we set I with our endpoint by hitting the letter I. So once we find our spot where we want things to go or to be, we hit the letter I. Now what we need to do is we need to scrub along this particular clip until we see the next storyboard. Okay? Once you see the next storyboard, go ahead and click where that's at. Okay? and we're going to set our out point. How do we set our out point? What keyboard command? O, right. Okay, so we're going to hit O. And you'll see that when we hit our in points and our out points, we now have part of that clip selected. Okay, so that way we can drag and drop it down into our timeline, into our storyline. Now you'll notice from last time, we still have some placeholders in here. We want to get rid of these placeholders. So what you can do is you can click anywhere in the gray space, and you can drag your mouse over and highlight all the clips that you want to delete. Or you can go one by holding down the Command key and selecting each clip that you want to delete. Okay, I'll do that again. You can click up here anywhere in the gray space, drag and hold, and it will select anything inside of this particular window. Okay, or you can hold down the Command function and go through and click on all the clips you want to delete. All right. From last time, I also gave you guys the keyboard shortcut to delete things. What was the keyboard shortcut to delete things? It's the big delete key, correct. So if you hit the big delete key, it'll delete it out of there and delete it out of your timeline. Go ahead and make sure your timeline is completely blank before you drop your first storyboard down. Okay. So now that we've emptied our timeline, we can go ahead and add this storyboard down to our timeline. Okay. What we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and drag this clip, this particular in point and out point, down into our storyline. Okay, and you'll see that when you do that, there will be a space that opens up where it will actually lock the video into place. Okay, now you'll notice that when you drag and drop it back down there, because this is the first clip we're dropping down into this timeline, because we deleted everything, we have to reset our video parameters. Okay, so by default, just like last time, it should be 1080p, should be 1920 by 1080, and our frame rate should be 2997. Okay, those are our default parameters. This format says it's 1080p, so it's progressive scanned, high definition video that we're utilizing. The resolution gives us the resolution of 1920 by 1080, which is your standard widescreen high definition video parameters, aspect ratio for resolution. And our frame rate is 2997, which again is our standard video production rate when we're doing broadcast. Okay, once we have that done, we can go ahead and hit OK. And we hit OK, we should have our storyboards down in the timeline. Okay, now what we can do is we can take our scrubber, our marker right here, and we can drag it along the ruler in order to move forward or to move backwards along the timeline. Now you'll notice that as I move forward on the timeline, once I get to 1 second, let's see here. Once I get to 1 second, actually exactly 1 second in, it changed my storyboard. Right? I don't want this second frame of my storyboard. I only want that first storyboard in there. So what I can do is I can take either the edge of this clip and drag it down to make it smaller, or I can come up over to my tool palette, click from the drop-down menus, and use my blade tool to cut on this line. Now you'll notice that as I move closer to that line, the blade tool snaps to it. Okay, remember that's because last time we had a discussion about this during the last class period. We talked about snapping. Snapping is located over here on the right-hand side of your screen, I should say. Okay, if this button is not blue, you will not get that razor blade to snap to that guideline, to that mark. Okay, so you want to make sure that this snapping option is selected, so that way when you move your item, your tool, to that particular mark, it'll snap it in place. Okay. Once you have that set, you can actually make a cut right on that line. And you want to make it on the last frame of the previous storyboard. So once you get to that point, if you want to go back a frame, you hit the left arrow. Okay, it'll take you back a frame. Or you can move this back. Actually, you can move this back right here. Right there, back a frame, and you can cut right on that line. And when you cut right on that line, it's going to create 2 clips now for you to be able to use. Okay, so go ahead and make your cut right on that line so that way you have 2 separate videos. Okay. And so the first frame of your second slide, and by the way, remember, if you messed up, you can hit Command Z. Your first frame of your second slide should be your second storyboard. Okay. I'll give you guys a second to go ahead and do that. 7 and 23.
It still didn't work.
Can you go down to West? Mute this. Okay, cool. So we should all have 2 separate clips now that we can use, right? We're going to work on just the first one. So because we're just going to work on the first one, we're going to delete this one right here. Yes, Chase?
She doesn't have her.
Cool. I will send it to her. Thank you.
I don't think I have one either.
Give me 1 second. You do, because I know it's sent to that computer. This computer was not. It was not sending. Okay. There you go. They're there now. Okay. Cool. So now we have our first clip, right? Like I said, we want to delete this second clip because we're not going to utilize this clip right now. Okay? So we can click on this clip and delete it, right? And the way we delete it again is by hitting the big delete button. Cool. So we now got our first clip. Okay? That's awesome. If we were to play it through, we can take our scrubber and scrub all the way back to the beginning. Okay, use our little marker and then hit spacebar, and it will play out our entire video. Now you'll notice that this is only 1 second long. The reason why it's only 1 second long is because that's how long the individual images were supposed to be up, because when I took the image for the storyboard, it was only supposed to be up for 1 second. We need to elongate this particular image. Okay, you can't just grab the edge here and start dragging, because watch what happens when I do. If I start grabbing this edge and dragging down, it automatically just extends the video. Okay, so we can't just grab the edge and start extending it. What we need to do is create kind of a freeze frame, and then once we create a freeze frame, we can drag it and make it a little bit longer. We can make it extend a little bit more. Okay, but if you take a look at this particular frame, the frame isn't even set right because it's going up and down. It looks like vertical video. So the first thing we need to do is adjust this image before we freeze frame it and extend it and make it longer. So if you go over here to your inspector window, you'll see that you have a bunch of different options on the right-hand side of your screen. Okay? Anytime you want to see some of these options, you can go on the right-hand side and you can click Show, or you can click Hide. Any item that is checkmarked in blue means that that particular effect is actually being used. One of the effects we're going to start using is rotation inside a transform. Okay, this is the very basics that you'll need to know before you begin to start utilizing a program or a piece of software like After Effects. Okay, because you need to be able to change the orientation of your video. You need to be able to change how big your particular shot is, and so on and so forth. Okay, so what we're going to need to do is we're going to make sure we have this clip selected, which we do. We have our scrubber scrubbed over the top of it, so we can actually see that that is the clip we're editing. And we're going to rotate this image to make sure that it is correctly oriented, so that way it is horizontal and not vertical. Okay, now my math people, how much do I need to change or rotate a particular image or an item in order to make sure I have a correct right angle, an accurate right angle? 90 degrees. Okay, so if we take a look at our rotation tool, you can see there's degrees and there's a number. You can double click on here and type in 90 and then hit return. Or you can use the dial that's right next to it in order to rotate it however you need to rotate it. Okay, but we need to make sure it is rotated 90 degrees. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and rotate that particular item 90 degrees. Now once we've done that, cool, great, but it still doesn't take up the entire screen. The reason why is because if we look at the scale of this particular image, it's at 100%. This image is smaller than the canvas or the background that we're putting it onto. So we need to scale it up and make it larger. Okay, so if you go under Scale All, we can take the slider and slide it from left to right to scale both the X line as well as the Y line to make sure it is scaled up to be full size. Typically, in order to be full size for this particular storyboard, it's 175%. Okay. So you can scale up your storyboard to about 175 or 180%. Okay. Now you'll notice that when we do that, it makes the picture more pixelated. This is because the resolution of your original image is smaller than the canvas. Anytime you size stuff up, it's going to stretch it, which makes it more pixelated. So if you're wondering why your images before always had a problem of becoming more and more pixelated whenever you try to blow them up or make them bigger, it's because you're taking something that's already small and trying to stretch it. Okay? This is why typically with video, you would rather shoot in 4K, which is 4 times the size of 1080, and squish it down to 1080 because then it's going to look better, look nicer, and so on and so forth. Okay? In our case, this is a little bit smaller. Right? But now we actually have our image. It's oriented correctly. It takes up the full screen. We have our shot. Okay? So now what we can do is we can create a freeze frame. So what we're going to do is we're going to come all the way down here to the bottom, back in our inside of our timeline, and we're going to go down to the last frame. Okay? You can drag your playhead, your marker, all the way down to the last frame, and we need to go back 1 frame. So you want to go left 1 particular frame. When we do that, now we have the option to add in a freeze frame. If you go up under Edit, you'll see there's a bunch of different options. Edit is at the top part of your screen in what's called the menu bar. And that is, the menu bar allows you to choose from a bunch of different options. Okay, you'll see there's a plethora of options to choose from up here. We don't have time to go through every single one of them, but you'll have some time to explore it a little bit for the rest of class today. But we're going to go under Edit, and we're going to go down all the way down here to near the bottom where it says Add Freeze Frame. And what that's going to do is it's going to freeze the individual frame that you're on, that you're starting out with, and add in a little bit more down at the bottom. So if you click Add Freeze Frame, you'll see that when you do so, it automatically added a freeze frame into your timeline after your clip. Okay, yep, go for it.
Is this Connect Freeze Frame?
It shouldn't be Connect, it should be Add Freeze Frame. Right down here at the bottom, yours says Connect. Okay, so chances are if yours says Connect, did you go back 1 frame?
Yeah.
Oh, are you selected on your clip down here in your timeline?
Oh, no.
There you go. So make sure you're selected on the clip. There you go. Now you got it. Yeah, so that's the big thing. Make sure that as you guys are going through and working on this particular stuff, you want to make sure you're not clicked up here in the media browser. Because if you're clicked up here in the media browser, it's not going to let you edit or do the thing that you want to do when it comes to making specific edits for videos. Okay? You want to make sure you're clicked on the clip down inside the timeline. Now that we have a freeze frame, okay, that we can adjust, you can drag the edge and elongate it, or you can make it shorter. Okay? And it'll only do it for this particular freeze frame. Now this is great and fantastic because now you can decide how long you want this particular slide to be up inside of this video. Okay, so now if you take your playhead back or your scrubber back to the beginning and hit spacebar, it'll play for as long as your clip is here before it switches to the next shot. Okay, so you'll see in my case, my entire video clip is 3 seconds and 7 frames. Okay, that's what this is telling me right here in the middle of my particular screen. Right? The next thing we'll do is get the next shot. So we have to go back up into our browser. We're going to find our next shot, which is right here, which is Costco. I'm going to set my endpoint, okay, by clicking up here and setting my endpoint with the letter I. Or sorry, not that one. It's the egg use. And then set my out point with the letter O anywhere inside of this particular region. Okay. So I set my in point and out point. I can drag that down here. I can scrub over to make sure that that particular clip is good. I'm going to rotate my item 90 degrees. Okay, for that particular clip, I'm going to scale it up to 175. Cool. So now I got the next shot that I have. I got my first shot, then I got my next shot. Okay, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a freeze frame. I'm going to go down to the last little bit, go back 1 frame, make my freeze frame. Boom, and I got my second storyboard in there. You guys are going to continue this process until you have all your storyboards down in here inside of your timeline. Okay, so if you have 40 of them, you have to do that process 40 times. Okay, if you have 10 of them, you have to do it 10 times. And what we're going to start doing is actually scaling out and seeing how long our video actually is and how long these frames are supposed to stay up on the screen. This is going to give you a very, very good understanding of how your video is progressing before you ever go and film it or shoot it. Okay? Not only will you do that, but you also have the ability to record voiceovers. Okay? Here's how you're going to be able to record a voiceover. What you're going to do is, after you have all of your videos aligned, you're going to take your playhead and put it over each different part where there is supposed to be a voice added in for a particular line of dialogue. You are not going to state out or talk out the action, right? Because in theory, the action should be presented up on screen as a result of the video. Okay? So I'm going to set my marker. The first time I'm going to talk is right here under Egg Isle. Once I've set my marker where it is that I want to record my voiceover, I can go up under my menu bar again at the top of the screen and go under Window. And you'll see there's an option for Record Voiceover. You can go ahead and click on that. Okay? Now, it's going to ask whether or not Final Cut can have access to your microphone. You want to choose OK. Right? Now, in my case, I will not have the voiceover capabilities because my computer does not have a microphone. If you were to start talking on your computer, if you start talking, go ahead and start talking, everybody. Okay, you should see this green bar right here going up and down. Your microphone is located on the top of your monitor, right up above your camera. Okay, if you do not see your microphone going up and down, we need to change your audio input. Okay, if you go under the advanced options, your audio input is available to you underneath input. Okay, it should be internal microphone. Okay, for you guys to be able to utilize, right? If you want to monitor your audio as you're speaking, you can turn that on. There's a couple of more advanced options available to you here, and you can go through those kind of on your own time if you need to. Okay, but that's what's under the advanced option, right? If you go back to record your voiceover, if you hit the red circle, it's the same as hitting record on any recording device that you have in front of you. Okay, a camera, a phone, or anything else like that. If you hit record, it'll give you a countdown, 3, 2, 1. Then you can start recording your voiceover, and you'll see that as you're recording your voiceover, it will create a new line down at the bottom of your timeline. When you're done, you can hit stop. Okay, so go ahead and record just a line of dialogue really quick to make sure you guys have this the ability to do this. Okay. Okay. Yep. Most of you guys will notice the dialogue is really low. Okay, so if the dialogue's really low, you'll need to turn up the input gain or the actual gain of the actual microphone, one or the other, so that way you can gain sound. Okay. For those of you that don't know, gain is turning up not the actual microphone, but it's turning up the ability to absorb audio as it's being picked up by that particular microphone at the source. Okay, so that's the reason why you have different gain options available to you. Okay, that'll be available to you down here at the bottom, and now you have a line of dialogue that you can use and drag and drop under where you want that line of dialogue to be played. If you still need to turn up or down your volume, if you go underneath the clip down here in your timeline, you will see a blue line. When you hover your mouse over that blue line, you'll notice that the icon changes. This allows you to turn up or turn down the volume of that particular clip. Okay? Now you'll notice that when you turn up or down the volume of that particular clip, it turns up the volume of the entire clip. Okay. If you only want a section or a part of that audio, you can hold down the Option key, and you'll see that when you hold down the Option key, your icon changes again. This adds in what's called a keyframe point, or a point along this line, so that way you can make adjustments. And you'll see that you can go along and click and create multiple points, multiple handles, in order to adjust your volume going up or down at specific points inside of your particular audio timeline. Okay? So you're going to be able to go through and record all the dialogue from your script. you can go through and record some of the storyboards as well, or you have all the storyboards in there underneath that, and you can begin to see how your video is going to progress as you're developing and putting your video together. Okay? Now you guys are going to have about an hour to work on this. I'm not expecting you to get all 5 minutes done. If you get all 5 minutes done, awesome, fantastic. But we want to get at least the first minute of your video done while you guys are going through and working on this. Each of these items are items that you guys will be utilizing as you start to work on your very first video project next class period. So today is a chance for you guys to go through and explore how to utilize Final Cut Pro as an application and go through and play around with some of the steps that I've shown you before we actually start our first video project on Thursday. Okay? So that's what we're going to be doing for the rest of class 4 today. Okay?